Hey, New Electron speaking. When you think extreme, what do you think of? Antarctica? The Sahara? Doing the homework while the teacher's collecting it? Yes, all these answers are correct, but nothing pales in comparison to black holes, the most extreme items in the entire universe. But what if I told you there's something so dense, so incredibly, no, not dense, so extreme, so weird that it could kill black holes? I'm serious. You may think nothing beats black holes in their weirdness, but there's an option. Gravastars. It starts at the beginning with stars. When a star dies, they go into a supernova. I'm sure you all already know by how it works, but in a nutshell, their cores collapse, their outer layers also collapse, and then they bounce back in a violent explosion. Depending on how big or small the star is, or depending on how big it is, one of two things can happen. Either the core turns into a neutron star, which is a topic for another day. The second object sort of breaks physics and makes a singularity and an event horizon. And it creates a singularity, an infinite point of density, an infinite point of mass and density. Yet then we're talking about black holes. Gravastars are a third, even weirder option. Here's how this works. Instead of their cores collapsing, they kind of get grounded down, like rock being pulverized by a gigantic cosmic hydraulic press. It turns into pure energy, sort of mini-universe if you like. And just like our universe, this bubble violently wants to expand. However, because of its mass, it can't. It gets grounded down, kind of. It's like Thor hammering this sort of thing. It stays intact and it cannot move, making a new material that we know exists, and it is very weird. And then, suddenly, it stops. A Gravistar is born. Cosmic soap bubbles. Just like black holes, it can be any size, but one is typically about the size of London and as massive as 10 suns. But don't worry, it gets weirder. Its shell is freezing cold. Only a billionth of a degree above absolute zero, which is crazy. If we look at it in deep infrared, it will look something like this. The cosmic microwave background shines more brighter in comparison with it. Why is it so cold? Well, it's atoms. Well, we know anything with atoms jiggle back and forth. But the shell isn't made of atoms. It's made of a new type of matter, which we'll just call NM, which stands right at the limits of what is allowed in physics. Oh no, I misspelled that. There, the limits. Also, because of the forces pulling that I discussed earlier, the shell is really, really tight and thin. It's so thin that atoms seem truly gargantuan next to it. And it's also really, really tight. So tight that if you wanted to push the whole thing by 1 meter, you need the energy of a supernova. And the inside, it only gets weirder. The inside is empty. Except for the core, for the pure energy in the middle that violently wants to expand. This sort of breaks our brains a bit. Inside is basically a super dense nothing. But it gets even weirder when we discuss the energy it has inside it. First, let's start with particles. Particles, like any particles, protons, neutrons, electrons, quarks, gluons, some other particles, they're not really solid. They act sort of more like waves in an ocean. Yeah, we're diving into metaphors now. And just like how waves on Earth, waves need water to function, here, in order for the particles to function, they need some kind of cosmic fluid. That is the vacuum. A clever word that uses a W, but not a W. The particles make ripples that form you, me, everything. But what if there is no particles? Well, inside this super dense nothing, there's still the fluid, and it has immense energy. Let's get rid of all of this, and let's try to imagine this. This is the room you're in. It is 99.98% vacuum outside from a bunch of particles floating around. The space in between particles that make up your DNA and atoms outside. Between those, there's vacuum. But the vacuum in a Gravastar is not only different, but immensely weirder. It's like it's being pumped by some kind of cosmic pump. Like the vacuum is being pumped in to the absolute limit. The super dense nothing. And even without stars and planets or anything like that, the fluid still has energy. And the super dense nothing fluid in a Gravastar is 10 to the 44, has 10 to the 44, or 10 billion trillion trillion trillion, or 100 trillion times more energy per cubic centimeter. Hey, just like black holes. So now we have all this fluid inside it. Now the pump has reached the limits. It can't go any further without completely collapsing in on itself. Hey, just like a black hole. You start to see some similarities here. And this fluid inside the black hole violently wants to expand. It can't, of course, because of these two impossibly strong forces pulling in, trapping it in pretty much the safest prison in existence. And it's protected by the best prison of all time. It's stuck in this prison. The bars are the shell, pretty much. So you have these two unbelievably strong forces. Now let's imagine this back in real life and stop using metaphors. Gravastars are objects that are really dark. Their mass is just insane, and they're also really, really, really cold. From the outside, Gravastars are kind of like black holes. They kind of make some of the same effects as black holes, like trapping matter and light in an accretion disk, and as you get closer to it, time slows down. If you went near a Gravistar, like just here, you're more than dead. You'll be crushed into this, pulled over here, and once you touch the shell, your atoms kind of break, and they're turned into vacuum fluid. And then the Gravistar gets a millionitesimal, an infinitesimal bigger, and an infinitesimal more massive. But what's the point of all this? Is there really a point? Yes. Black holes were first suggested in the early 20th century as equations, as the abstract solution to gravity equations. For more than 50 years, they were mathematically valid, but people thought they were too extreme to be real, and they chose not to believe it. But then our understanding on paper started getting better, and we also observed the stars, and we found them. Whether if it's stars just being knocked around by an invisible force, or the same thing happening with light. We even took a picture of one as our tech and theories improved. But black holes still remain a ton of questions that have traumatized physicists for about a century now. For instance, the singularity. Everyone's favorite part of the black hole. It sort of breaks physics. It basically deletes matter, which is just what? Gravastars are a newer solution that don't have singularities and don't delete matter. They're kind of like the solution to the puzzles of black holes, but they too have questions, at least some weird questions. For example, this new weird matter inside in this really thin, tight, and cold shell. How is that possible? Their insides are super dense, nothing, and just a supermassive emptiness. But they kind of do fit of what we see in the sky. So, are they real? Actually, there's a way to find out. We all know that black holes have an event horizon, the point of no return, but gravastars have an actual shell that's made of matter. Really weird matter, but still matter. So they should behave really differently when two of the same collide. When two objects like as massive as themselves collide, like two black holes, they leave gravitational waves. Ripples in space-time that travel at the speed of light. And when they finally collide, they sound kind of like a drum. It's loud and stops quickly. Gravastars colliding should sound more like a gong. It's loud and it leaves subtle echoes behind. Unfortunately, because they're surrounded by such strong gravity, it swamps the music. It swamps the sound. Kind of like imagine yourself, you're in the middle of a room. You're surrounded by two concrete walls, and you need to tell the difference between two instruments. You need some pretty sharp technology to do that. And while we made incredible progress, we're just not quite there yet. So, we'll end it there. Gravastars may solve some of the biggest problems in science, in physics and science, or just may be another concept in our discard pile. But that's why we do science. That's why we do science, to see if our assumptions were correct and how we can improve on further assumptions and research and stuff like that. Well, it was pretty fun doing this. Also, a new announcement is that I'm now gonna be uploading videos monthly, as well as shorts. But anyways, you are watching Upelectron. And as always, Thanks for watching.